Roger Southall, a professor of sociology at the University of Witwatersrand.
Bongiwe Zwane on SAFM.
All right, let's take a listen to some of your views on our voice notes.
Morning, Bongiwe, speaking to Roden here in Branston. This GNU is working. Yeah, we're so happy about this GNU. But they must focus on these suburbs. There's a lot of illegal foreigners around this suburb. There's a place here around Branston, they call it Zakwa. A lot of Besutu there, they got Sheikh, the cuckoos there, they're full of Besutu and Zimbabweans in that suburb.
Good afternoon, Bongiwe Zwane. It's Brian Mabai from Proteaglen. About Heritage Day is that what I can say is that our heritage was stolen by us, by Western country. They gave us the language that I express myself in right now. They gave us their culture. We no longer value our tradition way of doing things, because the moment we moved away from our homestead villages to search for opportunities is the time that we have lost our own heritage. Now we've been influenced primarily by Proteaglen. Thank you.
When Musimamane continue exposing a corrupt member of a certain political party, the party gets defensive, but it will think twice to do another wrong deed. In short, exposing helps to apply brakes on the party. Peter Rampatlelamashit, good afternoon.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. You love drama? Then step into the world of Luther as he cracks down on criminals terrorizing the streets of London Monday to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Top Gear will have you falling in love and rolling in laughter as Jeremy Clarkson and his team take you on an automotive journey like no other, Monday to Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
The students are summoned for an assignment to establish who will achieve a distinction of 3 points. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Who will conquer the varsity derby? Catch the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. University of Port Hare Ladies FC versus UJ Ladies FC on Sunday 29 September at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.6 FM in Kimberley. Bongiwe Zwane on SAFM.
All right, let's take you to this now. The Limpopo government says its decision to dissolve the Thabazimbi Municipal Council follows failures by the institution to carry out its executive obligations. The municipality has been dysfunctional for several years now, with court battles, infighting and parallel councils between the Democratic Alliance and ANC-led coalitions. Now, after the 2021 local government elections, no party gained clear majority to govern on its own. So let's have this conversation now. We're joined on the line by MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in Limpopo, Basikobo Makamo. Thank you so much for your time. Let's just start, MEC, here with, we've been watching what has been going on in this council for quite some time now. Why has it taken so long to get to this particular point?
Thanks very much, Wungiwe and the listeners. You will understand that when you go to do intervention in terms of Section 139, you should have tried your level best as provincial and national government to support a municipality using Section 154. So you will know that the issue of the parallel council started to be there in 2022, October. The 2023, we're trying to give space to support, but also because the court battles, they were taking each other to court. Sometimes, being a country which respect the rule of law, you will always want to think courts may be able to resolve. But we gave the space to the courts, we gave the space to the department to support, but ultimately the support did not yield the results that we wanted. That we must concede. But at the same time, the court battles are not necessarily helping the community. They are just helping to legitimize who should be running, controlling the municipality, but neglecting how the people of Tabazimbi should be benefiting the services from the municipality. Hence, this decision. Of course, it is a decision that you don't necessarily celebrate in taking, but it's a decision that you say, in order for you to intervene, let me invoke this section of the Constitution that will help us to resolve the challenge.
Now, what does it mean then for the community? To the council to then be dissolved? How does it help the community, and what's the way forward now?
Look, we did even engage with the community at some point. What will worry me and you and the community was that the councillors themselves, 23 of them, will no longer engage communities on the challenges they were finding, including at the leadership level. They will just simply go to court. You know, let me give you this example. You put it correctly in the background to say the DA-led coalition, the ANC. If these led coalitions, whether it's DA or ANC, at some point will go to community and say, we are faced with this challenge of the control of the municipality. Maybe the community will have assisted them, but they were no longer even going to consult with the community. They were only going to court. And as a result, that's where we realized that we should be able to come in and say, let the community go and decide, because this solution will mean IEC should prepare election within 90 days. They will be able to choose the people who will be able to know that when they are in council, they are in council on behalf of communities, and they should be able to consult on them.
So in the meantime, when people have maybe concerns about whatever is going on in their different areas, do they go directly to the municipalities, to the municipal officials? Because those particular individuals who would potentially be representing them maybe right now don't have a voice, or how will they then, go about raising some of the pertinent service delivery issues?
Look, what it means is that since the decision was taken by the Executive Council, we are giving it to the minister and the NCOP 14 days when we are preparing to put a team of administrators. What we are going to do after that, we will go and inform the community. I will go there on behalf of the provincial government and say, this is the team. Of course, it will not be accepted easily by those that thought they should continue, even if they are not servicing the people. So we will tell them that the administrators, this is how it should be. We should be able to know that how should we engage with the communities, what will be the projects which are running, how do we make them complete, but at the same time, IEC will be talking to them on how they are going to handle the elections. But as the MEC, with the administration which is there, I will always be supporting the communities to access the administrators so that they can raise whatever service delivery challenge within their wards.
The reality is that you may find the very same individuals who are potentially responsible for this chaos running again. How do you prevent a similar situation from unfolding again, even after the IEC has gotten involved and things are started from scratch?
Well, it will be not in my hands, Bongi. It will be in the hands of the community. Even when we are speaking today in the whole country, you have got the GNU, which is now, we are learning something out of how do you form government. We are busy with the legislation, how can we make the coalition governments work better within our communities. This is the challenge the democracy is faced with. Now, you could be able to tell people to say, under the circumstances, they should elect a political party that will represent their aspiration and run the municipality without the help of another political party. But when the democracy is maturing, we have the outcomes like, look, if I were to give you the example of Tabazimbi, which we're talking about, ANC had 11 councillors out of 23. All the combined political parties, the most had 5 in the DA, Freedom Front Plus, TRA, TFSD. So they just combined and put the one which was could has easily formed a minority government because they had numbers. You know, the trend is happening in this country now in number of areas. Now, we can call upon the community to participate to this process. We're giving them another chance to say decide. And you know, we're doing this under very difficult because 2026 is local government elections. So the new council that will come will also have some few months to run. But we are left with no option under the circumstances where for the whole 12 months, like you asked me, why did I take long? We're trying to nudge the place, trying to support, making sure that we give the court space to conclude. And they're not necessarily concluding. The people are suffering. As a result, provincial government, so it fit that we should be able to be on the side of the community.
All right, MEC, thank you so much for your time. That's MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in Limpopo, Basikobo Makamu. And that brings us to the end of Update at Noon today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Mudupi Makhalimele is standing by with the latest news.
Thank you very much, Bongi. Where the top stories at 1, court orders Khumalo's removal from the MK Party account, and mudslides kill 6 people in Japan. A very good afternoon. The Pretoria High Court has ordered Standard Bank to remove expelled MK member Jabulani Khumalo as a signatory on the MK Party's bank account. A judgment dated 17th September reveals that the MK Party hauled Khumalo to court seeking his removal from the bank account after he contended that he was entitled to remain as an authorized signatory, citing the pending appeal in the MK leadership battle currently sitting in the courts. Kenny Mapanga has more.
The High Court, in its judgment, however, found that the appeal has no bearing on the termination by the MK Party of Khumalo's mandate to act as an authorized signatory on behalf of the MK Party. The court, in its analysis, concluded that the MK Party has shown that Khumalo has no legal entitlement to remain a signatory on the MK bank account. As a result, the relief sought by the MK Party was granted, and Khumalo was handed a punitive costs order. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Former Finance Minister Trevor Manuel says the late Minister Pravin Gordhan was instrumental in bringing stability to the Revenue Service SARS. He has paid tribute to the former SARS Commissioner at the memorial service at SARS in Tshwane. Gordhan passed away earlier this month. Manuel says Gordhan was stern as some attempted to dismantle the Revenue Service.
My plea this morning is that in PG's honour, the SARS must be rebuilt to the level it had attained under his leadership, rebuilt with vigour and determination. It's never too late to envision and create the democracy that was dreamed of.
Action SA says the city of Joburg should focus on the delivery of basic services instead of joining in the public participation of changing the names of roads. This comes after the city invited residents to share their thoughts on the proposed renaming of Santon Drive to Leila Khaled Drive. Khaled is a former Palestinian militant and the first woman to hijack a plane. The party argues that Santon Drive is a neutral name. Action SA's Funzing Ngobeni says Khaled did not even contribute to the country's history.
We do appreciate that from time to time we have to obviously change our names of public landmarks so that we can be able to reinforce our heritage and to ensure that we honor those that have played a significant role in our history in South Africa. But this particular one, maybe it's really a misguided one.
The National Sea Rescue Institute has appealed to tourists and bathers to be cautious around coastal and inland waters. Spokesperson Craig Lamberton says the public should follow the weather updates and adhere to their warnings before going to the swimming areas.
Always be cautious in and around coastal and inland waters. Rough sea conditions prevail around the coastline with storm seas, deep sea, bringing hazardous conditions to parts of the coastline. Recent heavy snowfalls around parts of the inland may cause swollen rivers.
And 6 people are now reported to have died after torrential rains brought floods and mudslides to the Ishikawa prefecture in Japan. The region has received double its average rainfall for September. The BBC's Shaima Khalil has more.
Local police and fire departments said 10 people were rescued near a tunnel in Wajima City. 2 women were found dead in an area where landslides struck over the weekend. Reconstruction was underway near the tunnel due to the damage caused by a major earthquake on New Year's Day. Officials say 1 person was confirmed dead in Suzu City after a home was engulfed by a landslide. Wajima and the surrounding areas in Ishikawa Prefecture have suffered major damage in the January 1st earthquake. Some temporary homes for quake survivors have now been flooded. The emergency warning has been lifted, but officials have urged residents to remain vigilant and warned of further landslides.
The top story at 1, the Pretoria High Court has ordered Standard Bank to remove expelled MK member Jabulani Khumalo as a signatory on the MK Party's bank account. It is the full circle now. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
There will be humongous fighting spirit accompanied by high emotions, tension, and drama. Because this is a meeting of giants. Golden Black targets maximum points as part of the Heritage Month celebrations. But Cabo Yellow says the Yellow Nation only gets impressed by victory. This is the Betway Premiership. Witness the massive clash between Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns on Saturday, 28 September at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
reach it. One day I'll reach it. One day I'll reach it. Yeah, yeah. I'm ready. One day I'll reach it. 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 Yeah. A thought just crossed my mind. Now who am I not to be? 'Cause I'm ready. Will you be there for me? Yeah.
It is the sounds of Zonke coming through with Reach It, a beautiful, beautiful track. And every time I play it, it sparks memories for me. One day, when we penned down the memoirs, it's a story to be told of three friends who ventured off to New Jersey and found themselves stranded in the midst of the night. And this song provided much needed relief and aggravation for all those who were on the expedition. Story yet to be told. That was Zonke with Reach It, and I hope that you've had a great weekend. And managed to get some rest. I know that it was a relatively hectic weekend, depending on whether or not you were en route to KZN or had to delay your plans to get out to KZN on account of the weather, or perhaps you happened to be on the way there and then found yourself in the midst of everything that was happening with the snowfall rather. A lot of people really were stranded on the N3 going out to KZN. But if you were inland and at home, just sort of staying away from the streets on account of the weather that we all experienced, the cold, of course, courtesy of everything that was going on in KZN, then I hope you managed to enjoy your rest. By the way, speaking of folks that were on that N3 route headed out to KZN on the weekend, I'd love to know if you were there, or if your family members were there, or friends happened to be on that road, found themselves on that road, or had plans to be on that road and had to delay the plans and stall for a couple of days. Good and bad. I'd love to know what your experience was like. I think a lot of us were on social media just like fixated and glued to everything that was going on, right? Because on the one hand, you had the folks that were sharing on TikTok their wonderful creative experiences, playing with the snow and having a good old jolly time. And then, of course, we also had the very serious life-threatening situation of many people that were stranded overnight for hours on end on the N3 with not knowing when relief and rescue would come. And there were a few people that also took to social media platforms. We saw a few folks on Instagram and X just sharing, stories of their relatives, their parents that happened to be stuck on that route overnight, trying to scramble together some resources, trying to get them rescued and get them connected to the relevant emergency services. I think all the stories that I was tracking on social media all ended positively with everybody safely at home. And so we thought we'd just touch base with you if you happen to be somebody that was affected by the snowfall in that KZN region, or your family was affected by that snowfall, or you, just like the rest of us, were watching on social media as people were live tweeting and live posting their experiences. We'd love to know, good or bad, how was that for you? 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to send through a WhatsApp voice note, you're more than welcome to do so. We've got lots on the agenda today. We're going to be talking Heritage Day, your untold stories that can contribute to broadening our heritage narrative. We're going to be touching base with a lecturer at the Department of Anthropology from the University of the Free State. We also are going to be looking at a tech startup support Darkies in Tech is what they call themselves, and they are leading the charge for a more inclusive ecosystem in the tech world. We'll find out more about what it is that they do. And then we'll also catch up with some folks who are using traditional music to, I guess, spark conversation. They're using traditional music through digital distribution to bring an awareness to us around a plethora of issues, and we'll find out more about what it is they are up to later on. On the other side of 2, I'll let you know what's coming up there. We're taking a career focus on the other side of 2, and we're talking landing your first job after university, but we'll let you know closer to the time what that entails. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on.
From 1936 to the future, from Ekaya, Ekas, to Jozi and Urkan to the world. From dance and poetry to stages filled with our hopes and dreams. From SABC radio stations to cross-border triumphs. From drama, comedy and heart-pounding sport to raise our flag. From culture and spirit to the streets where talent is grown. From generation to generations and the shows that kept us entertained. So, what are you waiting for? Kumbule Kaya. SABC has always been home to our joy, stories, and Msanti's magic. Come home to SABC Plus, still home to the best of who we are.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Put a spring in your step with the Espresso Morning Show.
That's right. Join us for fresh ideas, blooming trends, and vibrant tunes that are sure to brighten your day.
Discover the best ways to enjoy this season's beauty, from garden tips to spring fashion.
Come on now. Plus, get inspired with lively interviews and my favorite, the latest in entertainment.
Basically, start your mornings right with us. That's weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. only on S3.
Is there ever a bad time for a good conversation? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
So we want to know today, for a little bit of a family meeting catch-up, did you or someone you know find yourselves stuck in the snow on the N3 route? How was it for you, good or bad? Who came to your rescue? We'd love to know your stories and your tales around that. And, of course, if you're also traveling to KZN today, because the roads are open, how's the route and the journey for you now? Are you excited to also, do the pit stops and take some pictures and some videos in the snow and get to frolic a little bit, especially because you would have missed, the big blizzard that hit over the weekend. So if you're driving today, you really are just getting to enjoy the snow. Hit us up on WhatsApp. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. We'd love to hear from you if you can send us a voice note. Right now, though, we are getting into a conversation around our untold stories and how do we contribute to broadening our heritage narrative. And our guest today begins by writing that 30 years into democracy, the issues related to heritage resources in public spaces continue to pose a challenge in defining our collective cultural identity and, of course, building a nation united in diversity. And it may be time to move forward from a heritage narrative shaped by the colonial and apartheid eras to embrace the stories of the past 3 decades of democracy. And we've got joining us now a lecturer at the Department of Anthropology with the University of the Free State, Mutsatebe Serikwane. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for the time. As I read a little bit of an excerpt from your introduction into this piece, what is meant by those words that the issues related to heritage resources in public spaces continue to pose a challenge in defining our collective cultural identity and building a nation united in diversity?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners as well. So let me congratulate you for getting my name correct. I'm quite sure that it was the whole evening's practice, so you did very well there. I feel incredibly proud, and you to me while I'm still at the village, so I feel quite very proud.
Thank you.
I don't know what those mean. I think oftentimes when I write, it's because I want people to have a conversation with me. And the typical academic in me is that you teach so that at least people can move from the everyday kind of genre to engaging with text that somehow poses a challenge so that at least we can stretch each other intellectually. But let me try to answer your question. One, it's because before 1994, somebody defined to South Africa what heritage is. And somehow they also went to an extent of also telling us or teaching us how to actually embody this particular kind of narrative. And it took the form of symbols, statues, etc., which today we're really struggling with. And understand that this was happening in the context of colonial and apartheid history that also somehow would get us to also, live in spaces that will be, to an extent, actually, lack of a better word, exclusive, right? You would have a black neighborhood, you would have a white neighborhood, you would have a colored neighborhood. And effectively what happens in those particular contexts is that there is a so-called racial group that will define its spatial landscape in line with their political interest, in line with their cultural interest, in line with their religious interest. All of this so-called boundaries, for lack of a better word, collapsed post-1994, and if you read this in line with the Constitution, then everybody would then access these particular spaces. And when you are accessing the space, you find that there are memorials. Let me use the broad word, memorabilia, that takes the form of statues, that takes the form of names of buildings, that takes the form of street names, etc., that would speak to a particular group, to a particular racial group. And you would find it very difficult to actually relate with whatever that is in the public space. And that's where the challenge is. So the question effectively is, I find myself here, but I don't belong. Because there's nothing about where I am that suggests to me that I actually also belong. So those to me are the challenges that I'm talking about. So 30 years into democracy, what are we supposed to do so that we can actually really start addressing that?
Yeah. Mutsatebe, I want to just see if we can switch the line a little bit and get you on our WhatsApp line. Just for a bit of a crisper line. But as we do that, the conversation will definitely continue on the other side. And if you do have a perspective that you'd like to share, 086 000 20 32 is the number that you can call us on. And of course, our WhatsApp line is also open on 061 410 4107. If you'd like to send through a WhatsApp voice note, we're hoping to sneak in some time to have a family meeting with you and find out from you if you happen to be traveling on the N3 this past weekend, despite the weather warnings from SA Weather. How did you and, your family and your friends, how did you find yourselves to be on that route, battling the snowfall, the very heavy snowfall? And how was it for you, good or bad? We'd love to know your experience, so feel free to share that. You also, when you write about the sort of this interrogation and this questioning, how do we then, or how can South Africa then reshape its heritage narrative to include the stories, and you refer to them as a living heritage, to include the stories of, the last 3 decades, the stories that speak to the more collective experience and collective memory of South Africa?
So when you start to really review when you're wanting to check what is existing, you would see that there was an intentional exclusion of other people's narrative. I'm just going to use an example so that you understand what I'm talking about. I think there's in Bloemfontein something called Anglo-Boer War Museum, right? So this is in line with the cultural institutions of the 1998 that would then actually give the Minister of Arts an opportunity to say there is something called a cultural institution that would be used to document. And part of this museum, so this is Anglo-Boer, so it's really just a memorialization of the Anglo-Boer. So the Anglo-Boer with the British, and then of course the role of Paul Krea, the roles of Empty and Stain, Statue, and everybody else that was part of that was fighting for the Afrikaner would be memorialized and documented there. But one thing that just as an example, one thing that we've been seeing is that the only story that is told at this particular museum is that of the a white concentration camp. And nothing is said about the black concentration camp. Right? So if you're looking at the fact that the black concentration camp is not included, it gives you an opportunity, you and me, an opportunity to write about the black concentration camp, so that it is not, when I take my children to the museum, it is not only the white concentration camp's narrative that is memorialized there, it's also the black concentration camp. I think that's basically our first step, right? So let's go back to what exists and ask ourselves one question, because you cannot tell me that white people arrived here and didn't find anybody, or whoever arrived here and didn't find anybody. There was people, and it cannot be that white people fought the British and they were doing that on their own. They were black people that were doing that. So it's a one way of making sure that we actually include this intentionally excluded narrative. And remember, all of these things, now you exclude people's narratives so that you can actually dispossess. You can later claim this is a piece of land, right? So what we see is that with the archaeological diggings, and recently we looked at the nomination of Thulamela. It's somewhere in the north. Part of what would be really a sort of a dominant narrative is that of an archaeological remains, of archaeological site. And the one question that we're asking is, so if we do diggings and we find that there are people that existed here, so we find bones, there are people that existed there. Who were they? And what role do they play in defining this particular kind of space? But why is their identity and the contribution not recognized? And then you start to really tell the story that was excluded. And you will see that I kept on talking about, it's probably important that we just flip the other side of the coin. Because the only side of the coin that we've been focusing on is that of colonial and apartheid footprints, and nothing that's said about the black people in the broader context of the heritage language or narrative. So maybe if we flip the side of the coin, we get an opportunity to reflect 30 years into democracy. How did we actually transition from apartheid? That's a story that needs to be told. Recently, we were super excited when we heard that UNESCO has decided to list the resistance and liberation route, right? That includes the likes of your Wesleyan Church, and that story needs to be read in line with other spaces that exist in the Eastern Cape. That's the nature of kind of the intervention that we would like to start seeing. And I'm saying this because 2015 you've seen, and you probably have had a long conversation around this, is that what we saw was the attack on statues, right? So it's perhaps also that while we are at it, right? So while we are writing the other side of the coin, that we don't fall trap on the way that your colonial, particularly because it was emphasizing on the physical, tangible, right? So you reduce a rich narrative into a statue. and I'm going to be sounding like a typical village boy. What do you do when you reduce something to a statue? You are actually reducing it to an object. Yeah? So it loses its historical narrative, and it happens particularly in as the years go by, that you have re-erected Motsa Tebe's statue, and Motsa Tebe somehow fades with the next 10 years or 20 years, and people would somehow use Motsa Tebe's statue as a place to hide when they are releasing themselves, and when people walk around there, all that they're picking up is the smell. So what has then happened to this? It has become an object that people would use later as a proxy for argument. What is our way? Nah? What is the South African? What is the global South way of telling our own stories? What is the way that we can tell our own stories so that we don't reduce them to objects, that it actually serve a particular function, a function that unites, a function that allows our own generations to actually learn about what happened in the past going into the future, and that can help them to tie the different gaps, the past, the current, and the future, to tie those particular gaps, but with rich narratives and stories. I
want to hold it right there for a second. Sorry to interject, but I want to hold it there for a second just to take the headline news with Modupi Makhalamela, and then we'll come back on the other side and maybe delve deeper into the question that you put on the table to say, what is the way to tell our stories? But for now, though, it's just gone 1:30.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, Asawa, the KZN Kokta Department has warned communities of the possible risks of flooding as snow melts. The Pretoria High Court has ordered Standard Bank to remove expelled MK member Jabulani Khumalo as a signatory on the MK Party's bank account. And Sri Lanka's new president has been sworn in at a ceremony in the country's capital, Colombo. I'll be back with a full news update at the top of the hour.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye."
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Kickstart your journey to success in 2025 with the Durban University of Technology. DUT offers programs in the faculties of Accounting and Informatics, Applied Sciences, Arts and Design, Engineering and the Built Environment, Health Sciences and Management Sciences, open for applications for 2025. Applications close on 30th September 2024, but dates may vary. Visit dut.ac.za for a full list of available programs and entry requirements. Apply now through the Central Applications Office by visiting cao.ac.za.
The world's best football league makes its return to S3. Will Arsenal finally win their first title since 2004? Or will Man City continue their dominance of the league and win their 7th title under Pep Guardiola? Will the Dutchman in Erik ten Hag and Arne Slot have something to say as Man United and Liverpool step in to contest for the title? But it's not only about winning the title. For some of the 20 teams, it's a chance to improve on their performances from last season. While for others, it's the battle to avoid relegation and stay in the top flight. Every team has a point to prove. This is not just football. This is a masterpiece being played out every weekend. Channel your best sport with the English Premier League. Saturdays at 3 p.m. on S3. Open up.
S3.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with my guest, Mutsaitebe Seragwane, who is a lecturer at the Department of Anthropology with the University of the Free State. And he writes in his thoughts around our untold stories and how they contribute to broadening our heritage narratives. He writes that our heritage is unique and precious and cannot be renewed, and it helps us to define our cultural identities and therefore lies at the heart of our spiritual well-being and has the power to build our nation. And as we were going into the headlines, you were talking around, what is the way to tell our stories? Because I think we've explored this conversation in recent years around collective memories and what is memorialized and from whose perspective, and what is of importance for the collective versus what is not. And I think it always comes into play when we engage conversations around the renaming or the reclaiming of places and spaces to say, but whose history is being archived, whose history is more important than the other and deserves of a statue and a street name and a building versus the collectives?
Sure, thank you. So, very important questions that you're really asking. And perhaps let's preface this and say, when we write the other side of the coin, let's just be intentional about the function and not reduce the heritage narrative to the object. Because once we do that, then we're going to be falling in the same trap that both the colonial and apartheid did. And so everybody is expected to look at the statue of Paul Kruger that was standing at one stage at Tshwane, and you are expected to actually embrace Paul Kruger as your heritage, narrative. And you would even go to an extent of not actually picking up anything that speaks about that particular statue. And all it does is that it's taking space and nobody actually understands how to incorporate this in the broader context of what we're talking about. So the functional, so I'm going to try to use this functional notion to say, if we do that, it will reduce the distance between what we call cultural heritage as monuments, and move it back to the people as creators. I don't know if you're hearing me there. So it's no more just an object. It says, let's move it back to the people as custodians, as guardians. As possessing this multifaceted construct of telling their own stories. So two of my students wrote an opinion piece based on what I wrote, and the one said, if we're talking about resistance and liberation, oftentimes the names that comes up is that of Utata Nelson Mandela, Utata Steve Biko, etc., and the crew. So the disciple, the 12 disciple, says, but in all of that, there's also actually a story that needs to be told about somebody else that stood the one day. Now, this is in line with the Constitution, because the Constitution says we will actually really strive towards a nation that is respectful of some of the ideals that is enshrined in the Constitution, and that include that I can be of any gender. So what about the people that laid their lives for that? Why are they not forming part of this kind of memorialization and forming part of the narrative that we tell? Another student said, perhaps art with its rich, I almost want to call it tapestry, for lack of a better word, allows everybody to have a voice, irrespective of those that are voiceless. So I look at a piece of art, and I don't have to be artistic. I don't have to be a poet to be able to discern some meaning. But it allows people to look at this piece of art and to write something that can be told at a later. So there's simple two things that becomes an intervention as far as the functional perspective is concerned, what it does, right? Like what it does is that it drives the notion of intangible living heritage. And that includes the continuity of a heritage site with its original function that speaks to the purpose for which the site was initially intended.
Yeah.
Another factor that's to me very important is the notion of continuity of care. Right? So let's just use burial site as and I almost want to call it as the best South African way of memorialization. We don't dump bodies at burial sites. It becomes sites of memory, of living memory. We see people. I was fortunate to be in Maputo at one stage with the family from Freedom Park visiting the people that died in exile. The people were waiting outside with bottles of water to visit their loved ones that are lying in the burial site. So there's that speaks to when you are intentional about the function this particular narrative of heritage can serve, to bring the people together, to make sure that people and it can be collective, because it is a burial sites that accommodate everybody irrespective of their class, irrespective of the language they speak, irrespective of, right? I don't care whether you lived a lavish life, whether you are an academic somewhere.
Yeah.
When you die, you will be buried, right?
Absolutely.
And you will be buried to the poor of the poorest. And effectively, death reclaims humanity. It reclaims humanity. And so all of us, when we go to the burial sites, we don't care whether you were buried with a casket or just a tamati box. You are buried. And what's important is that we all observe some respect. That's what a collective is. That's what we're striving for when we talk about a collective memorial.
If I can just come in here, we have to wrap it up, but I just want to quickly jump to this voice note in our last literal seconds.
Hi, Bridget. This is Tepiso. There was a clear intention to erase Black history in South Africa. And, I'm just curious to know, like at the moment, for instance, in schools, what is the history or the narratives that our kids are being taught? I'm saying this because during my era, I was reading about Jan van Riebeeck, but I was never seen a book or taught about the assassination of Biko, for instance, and Chris Hani. So I'm just curious to know as to whether there'll be ever a time where the South African government, especially the Department of Education, is very intentional in ensuring that the Black history of South Africa is being told, and especially on school level. It's like what is happening in America, where Black history has been erased in schools, and there is an intention for that. So I'm just curious to see whether in South Africa there'll be a change.
We literally have to wrap it up now, but I don't know if maybe you're able to give Tepiso a little bit of insights in about 30 seconds.
It's exactly what I've been striving for. One, and I had an interview with SABC after the listing of the sites, and one of the things that I said was that we cannot just wait for September to talk about these things. These things need to form part of the curriculum, and I think the new ministers were super excited to say we're going to review the curriculum and make sure that we actually include those particular histories. So let me challenge Tepiso, myself, and you. To make sure that we form part of that as a way that we can make a contribution. I've got colleagues that have been writing for the longest time about this particular history. This history needs to be consolidated, and it needs to form part of our curriculum. And it's not a history that needs to be taught to Black kids only. It needs to be taught to everybody in South Africa, so that the other kids that come from other racial groupings can start to actually access this intangible, this text that was intentionally excluded from the beginning.
We literally have to wrap it there, but I appreciate your insights today. If only we had more time. That was Mutsaitebe Sirikwane, who is a lecturer with the Department of Anthropology at the University of Free State. Let's take a quick pause and then we come back and we touch base with the founder of Darkies in Tech.
The Meeting Point with Koketso Sachane.
Praveen has really helped us understand what has become to be known as the phenomenon of state capture. He initiated this group of academics who produced the first set of academic material on what we understood then to be state capture under the title of Connecting the Dots, which I think enables South Africans for the first time to understand the various issues that they were really trying to comprehend and make sense of. And in that way, I think, created the basis for the public challenge to state capture as it became known, both within the ANC but also more within the public domain.
Nishan Bolton, the Executive Director of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation.
The Meeting Point on SAFM. You are listening to The Full Circle.
We're catching up now with founder of Darkies in Tech, Ntsako Mkiba, and we're looking at empowering professionals of color in tech and how Darkies in Tech leads the charge for a more inclusive ecosystem. How are you doing this afternoon, Ntsako?
Hi, Bridget. I'm doing very well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for the time. Let's jump straight into it. Give us some context in as far as Darkies in Tech.
Awesome. So, first of all, Darkies in Tech is a registered nonprofit that seeks to develop and transform the local tech ecosystem. Essentially, the problem we've identified in the SA tech ecosystem is that, it's a predominantly white, male-dominated space. Capital knowledge networks tend to flow within trusted networks that professionals of color oftentimes find themselves falling outside of. So really what we're trying to do through Darkies in Tech is to, first of all, unify the ecosystem for professionals of color, but then also equipping them with the necessary knowledge networks and hopefully capital so that we can actually start to build more thriving tech ventures within the local ecosystem.
What remains the barrier for professionals of color in these spaces?
That's a very good question. I think there's a trust deficit that exists. There's, as I mentioned before, there are these very well-entrenched networks and communities that exist. And because of the trust that exists within those spaces, capital is able to flow a lot easier. Whereas you find with the typical black or colored founder within South Africa, you don't necessarily have an uncle that's able to open up your first pilot with a corporate company, which is then able to de-risk your venture and also validate the idea that you're working on, right? And with that, then opens up the door to capital. So because you don't have that network within your own sphere, you oftentimes struggle to get to the same level as our white counterparts. We're also seeing as well that, there's a lot of people who are out there saying we want to support black founders. We're looking for black female founders in the space. But oftentimes the support that we receive, is either knowledge, the same knowledge that you kind of keep getting in the different programs. But very, very seldomly do you have people who are willing to actually, put skin in the game and actually fund these ventures. So that's some of the challenges that we're experiencing, being overtrained, or so to speak, but underfunded, which is the opposite of what's actually happening in the broader ecosystem.
Yeah. And since your inception, from what I read, you guys have had quite the impact, in fact, and you've generated in excess of 3,000 jobs, and you've raised around close to 6 billion rands in venture capital. So how do you ensure that as Darkies in Tech, you sort of sustain this and keep it going, and the kinds of resources that you've leaned on, or the partnerships and collaborations that you've leaned on?
Yeah, so I have to give credit to our incredible members. Our members are doing fantastically well out in the market. They, to your point, are creating jobs, which is debunking the myth that technology is is fundamentally anti-jobs. And also they're going out there and raising capital. So I think this is a powerful stat that actually shows that, black founders are actually able to attract capital, that the ventures we're building from a fundamental perspective are actually solid ventures that are venture backable. So we're very proud of that stat. And in terms of what I do, my role as the founder is to actually try and leverage our collective impact, go out there and formulate partnerships with value-aligned partners who want to support and even allow us to multiply our impact further. But really the real champions at the end of the day are our members who are out there rolling up their sleeves, identifying problems within the South African market and coming up with very innovative tech solutions to that. So very, very humbled and honored to be able to, be organizing the group.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about the strategies, the strategies that DIT is employing in order to attract more, on the one hand, professionals of color, but also the much needed investors and the partners that bring the sort of that weight and the monetary capital investment to the table.
Well, the first thing that we realize is that we're a lot stronger when we hunt in packs. As an individual venture that is black founded, chances are you struggle with some of those challenges that I've already expressed. But when we're together and we're able to then, speak about our impact as a collective, then we really start to sound compelling as a community. So that's one of the things that we've leveraged in our favor, is to actually do that. But one of the other things that I've done in the design of the community itself is that I didn't want it to just be a space for founders, right? But I wanted us to be able to have a very comprehensive conversation around the challenges within the ecosystem and also the support necessary to develop ourselves. So what I've done is that I've also opened up the community to investors. So some of our members are actually black fund managers within local VCs or black high net worth individuals who have an interest in investing in tech startups. And then I've also invited people who we call ecosystem builders. So these are your incubators and your accelerators. So you can think of them as support organizations who offer programming and sometimes funding to startups. So in bringing everyone, professionals of color, within those different spheres of the tech ecosystem, we now are able to have, very productive conversations around, what are the expectations of VCs? What is it that they need to see in our businesses so that we as the founders can start to build that and then also make them look better because they also have got their own investors who they're having to return capital to.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us as the founders in the community to really build compelling, sustainable businesses because we know we're also enabling the investors to go on and raise even more capital, which they can then in turn pour back into the community.
And I think the other thing, you touch on it, the fact that obviously the platform has brought in more fund managers, more high net worth investors to come through and connect with your founders. And I'm interested to know, what are they saying from their perspective as to where was the missing link, outside of your platform? Where was the missing link in them being able to access more funders, or what is missing, or what was missing from the funders that they've encountered that sort of didn't land the ball in the net, for instance?
Yeah. So one of the challenges that investors and VCs in our country experience is that they struggle to actually find pipeline of black founders. So effectively what we've built in our community is extremely valuable for them because we've unified the ecosystem and we've brought all of these founders and we've put them in one place, right? I mean, admittedly, when I started Darkies in Tech, I didn't know that there would be north of 400 of us in the ecosystem actually building. So first of all, solving that issue for them, that, discovering new ventures within the space that are black founded has been extremely, extremely instrumental for them. But then also as well, ensuring that we are understanding what their requirements are of these same founders so that we can actually develop them. So a huge part of what we do in the community is we host a lot of events and we call them knowledge transfer sessions. And in these sessions, we try and understand exactly where are the gaps in our knowledge. right? What is it that's standing in the way from us actually tapping into more capital? And then we try and plug them, leveraging people, the same people in the community who maybe are a little bit further along in their journey. So, for instance, if we're talking about fundraising, then we'll go to a founder in our community who has had great success in that space, and we'll ask them to educate the rest of us. We do that either online, and sometimes we also have in-person events where we're sharing knowledge. So very intentional around trying to equip ourselves so that we're not just being supported because of the color of our skin, but also because of the quality of the ventures that we're building.
Absolutely. Quality matters, considering also just how global this particular, space is. It's not enough to just tick a color box, but you have to come through with excellence first and foremost. Now, I know that you've also centralized this through your online platform. You've centralized your offering through your online platform. And for anyone who's interested, someone who's just sort of peaking out as a startup right now, and you've sparked their interest and the encouragement for them to use your platform and the kind of first steps that they'd get available to them there?
Yeah, no, that's so thanks for that opportunity there, Bridget. We're really excited to announce the launch of our new website. So if you just go to www.darkiesintech.com, then you'll find us there. And then you can see all the information about the community, what we're about, what our mission is, what our values are, and the various activities that we actually perform. But very importantly, as a professional of color in the tech industry, you can find our application form where you can complete that, and then our admissions team will review it, and if you meet the criteria, we'll admit you into the community. So that's very, very important. But also for, if you're a corporate representative or someone from the public sector listening to this, and, you're saying, hey, I didn't know that this space existed where there's so many, people of color who are building incredible things, then you can also find out about how you could effectively partner with us as a community as well. We really want to work with people who are values aligned and mission driven.
Absolutely. Very important that. www.darkiesintech.com is where you can go if you want to get more information and better resourced. That was Ntsako Mkiba, who's the founder of Darkies in Tech and a visionary innovator in his own right. We appreciate the time with you this afternoon. And that website again, www.darkiesintech.com. So we asked you earlier on if you were stuck on the N3 at some point, or maybe you had friends or family members that were stuck on the N3 over the weekend. My apologies. We'd love to hear your experiences. Or maybe you were thinking of heading out to KZN, and then, of course, you heeded the warnings by SA Weather, and you decided to stay put for another day or two. Now that you are firmly on the road headed to KZN, what are the conditions like? Are you enjoying the trip, at least? Because when you're not driving in danger, so you have the option of parking on the road, on the side, and taking some pictures, building a snowman, throwing some snowballs around. What is it like for you? 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Good afternoon, SAFM family. Nanlabana from KZN. On Saturday, it was a terrifying experience and exciting moment as well. I went to Underbeck. A Department of Transport reached to our company that we must try to open the roads with a grader. Being a truck driver, I loaded a grader to Underbeck trying to clean the roads. And you could see people from Shepstone, Mzinto, coming to experience snow. And today, again, I went to Drakensberg. All roads are open now. It was very fantastic, by the way. Bye.
Good day, SAFM. This is Njabulo. I had a friend who was traveling from Johannesburg to Durban. He was taking his kids to visit their families in KZN. They got stuck from around 7 o'clock in the evening on Friday up until yesterday, Sunday, around 5 p.m. yesterday. So it was hectic because at some point they're saying that the network was bad, the signal, they had no water, no food, nothing. And then they were able to reach Montrose at a midpoint from Johannesburg to Durban, only to find out that there was nothing to buy there, only the coal and ices, cold drinks, food. There was nothing. So they had to leave it that up until yesterday afternoon, and then they decided to not to continue with their journey. They just drove back. They told me this morning because it was not fun anymore.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
Masinga, is he going to try and beat him from inside his own arm? Oh, boys, it's Masinga! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Standard Bank Group, the biggest bank in Africa by assets, in partnership with the SOAS, will host the 4th annual Climate Summit on the 1st of October. The summit will host insightful discussions with various industry experts in charting Africa's course to net zero. The annual summit is one of Standard Bank's sustainability initiatives dedicated to driving growth on the African continent. Tune in on our SAFM Facebook page and be a part of the conversation in shaping the future of Africa's energy transition. Brought to you by Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 105.1 FM in Johannesburg.
Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
The top stories this hour: KZN communities warned of possible flooding, and Sri Lanka's new president is sworn in. A very good afternoon. The KZN Cocta Department has warned communities of the possible risk of flooding as the snow melts. This follows this weekend's severe snowfalls in KZN and the Free State that caused major traffic disruptions. This led to the closure of the N3 due to the formation of black ice and fog. This highway has now been reopened in both directions. At the weekend, hundreds of road users were stranded for almost 2 days between the Tugela Plaza and Harry Smith. Provincial Cocta MEC Thulasizwe Buthelezi says alerts have been issued to communities downstream of the Tugela River catchment areas to the potential of flooding. Disaster management teams will continue to monitor areas along the Tugela River from Ladysmith to Umsing. The Pretoria High Court has ordered Standard Bank to remove the expelled MK member Jabulani Khumalo as a signatory on the MK Party's bank account. A judgment dated 17th September reveals that the MK Party hauled Khumalo to court, seeking his removal from the bank account after he contended that he was entitled to remain as an authorized signatory, citing the pending appeal in the MK leadership battle, which is currently sitting in the courts. Kenny Mapanga has more.
The High Court, in its judgment, however, found that the appeal has no bearing on the termination by the MK Party of Khumalo's mandate to act as an authorized signatory on behalf of the MK Party. The court, in its analysis, concluded that the MK Party has shown that Khumalo has no legal entitlement to remain a signatory on the MK bank account. As a result, the relief sought by the MK Party was granted, and Khumalo was handed a punitive costs order. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The EFF in Limpopo has disbanded its Bembe regional structure. It says that the region was dissolved after the National Command Team analyzed the poor performance in the May elections. The party has dismissed allegations that some of its leaders in the region have jumped ship and have followed former party Deputy President Floyd Shivambu to the MK Party. Shivambu is from the Bembe region. The disbandment comes after the party disbanded its provincial and regional leadership structures in the 2021 local elections. EFF Provincial Chair Lawrence Mapulo says the regional leadership in Bembe was weak.
Statistics in terms of the outcome and the performance of Bembe, it speaks volumes, because when you check Bembe, the way they have performed during election, it's like there were no leaders. And it's like for one sub-region in Sekhukhune, their numbers is equal to the entire region of Bembe. Now you ask yourself to say, how can the region be perform equally like a sub-region? And now there was a lot of laziness indeed.
Former Finance Minister Trevor Manuel says the late Minister Pravin Gordhan was instrumental in bringing stability to SARS. He has paid tribute to the former SARS Commissioner at the memorial service at SARS in Tshwane. Gordhan passed away earlier this month. Manuel says Gordhan was stern as some attempted to dismantle the revenue service.
My plea this morning is that in PG's honour, that SARS must be rebuilt to the level it had attained under his leadership, rebuilt with vigour and determination. It's never too late to envision and create the democracy that was dreamed of.
And Sri Lanka's new president has been sworn in at a ceremony in the country's capital, Colombo. Anura Kumara Dissanayake swept to power on a tide of popular anger at the continuing economic crisis. The BBC's Paddy Maguire has more.
After taking the oath, Anura Kumara Dissanayake said he would work to inspire confidence in those who had not voted for him. The left-leaning politician has upended Sri Lanka's political landscape with his victory. Those that did vote for him are hoping he will make good on his promise to be tough on corruption and revive the economy. Mr Dissanayake has already reassured international investors by committing to honour a bailout deal struck with the IMF after Sri Lanka was plunged into virtual bankruptcy 2 years ago. However, he said he will reduce the impact of its austerity measures on the country's poorest.
The top story at 2 o'clock, the KZN Kokta Department has warned communities of the possible risk of flooding as the snow melts. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
And that's that for the news this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by OUTsurance Essential. Get a quote today by simply SMSing car to 43187. So you think your older car doesn't need insurance, but what if your car accidentally caused damage to someone's expensive car? OUTsurance Essential is affordable insurance for older cars, giving you up to 1 million rand liability and loads more. Plus, claims are paid in cash, so you can use your own panel beater. OUTsurance Essential is priced for cars older than 5 years and valued at under 125,000 and not financed. SMS car to 43187 or call 0800 60,000 today. OUTsurance is a licensed FSP and T's and C's do apply.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
I'll be still in the quiet presence of my God. Though I'm weak and fragile, I'll lay it at the feet. I don't need to say much, 'cause you know me so well. I'll just wait for your touch. That's all I need forever. Oh, that's all I need. I do not walk alone. I do not walk alone. This I know. This I know. I do not walk alone. I do not walk alone. This I know. This I know. I'll be still in the quiet, in the presence of my God. Though I'm scared and weary, I won't take my eyes off the light, 'cause I do not walk alone. No, no, I do not walk alone. This I know. This I know. I do not walk alone. No, I do not walk alone. This I know. This I know. Oh, I don't need to say much, 'cause you know me so well. I'll just wait for your touch. That's all I need forever. We do not walk alone. We do not walk alone. This I know. This I know. We do not walk alone. No, we do not walk alone. This I know. This I know.
It is Jay Something with I Do Not Walk Alone. I do not need a reason to play the song. Any day is a beautiful day to play this masterpiece by Jay Something. I Do Not Walk Alone is the name of the song. He officially released it beginning of 2023. It was sitting in his archives during COVID, one of the songs that came out of his time in COVID. And he was, quite delighted that we were the first station to actually play it, the first show to actually play it. We still we still have a case to fight there with him, around that. Jay Something with I Do Not Walk Alone, a beautiful song. As we look at visuals across all the 24-hour news networks right now, covering stories around the impact of the snowfall in and around the KZN community, and of course, everything that transpired on the N3. And I did want to hear from you for today's family meeting touch base. If you were on the road, or perhaps you had friends or family members or colleagues even that were on the road this past weekend, we'd love to hear your experiences around your journey or attempt to get to KZN or to get from KZN to other places, in the country, to get inland, and you found yourself on that N3. Did you happen to find yourself stuck in that gridlock traffic with all the roads being blocked and having to spend the night in the chills of the highway with other people? You know what I love seeing, though? I loved seeing the various videos. And yes, one does not take away from the fact that it is extreme conditions for us as South Africans, and we're not really equipped as to how we navigate this kind of snowfall. It's not our thing. This was the first time that we've seen snowfall at this this magnitude, at least in my lifetime. So we really aren't equipped around dealing with it. We don't even know what to do. So it was quite interesting. On the one hand, there were, the folks that had battery life and they were on the N3 and they were sharing their stories on the N3 and they were sharing their videos coming out of their cars, going to look for water, going to look for food, braving the chill and the cold, and to some degree, bad vision as well, because it got so dark and so gloomy at some point, even though it was daylight, and people just trying to find some kind of resource to keep themselves and the people in their cars warm and hydrated and fed. And communities in and around specific areas like Moy River and some communities also in and around those spaces actually coming out and opening their homes for people that were stuck, opening their homes, giving people blankets and clothes. And because a lot of people were unprepared, even though SA Weather did, I think for the first time in a long time, really did extensive warnings around this, but a lot of people were unprepared, as to what to expect. And I guess that's why a lot of people found themselves on the road. But we'd love to hear your thoughts or your stories, good and bad. And maybe you were upbeat. I saw a video on TikTok on this young gentleman popping his head out of his car and shouting to his neighbors, "Good morning, neighbor." He was stuck with a whole bunch of cars. And he said, "Good morning, neighbor. Is everyone alive?" And he went to every car through the window shouting, "Hoot, move your windscreen wipers. Stick your hand out through the window. I just want to see that everybody made it through the night." And everyone was in good spirits. And I thought, how very South African of us. We make it through the night together. And then we found a light, humid way to just check in on a very serious matter. Did everyone make it through the night? But, let's also make it a little bit fun so that we're not so stressed and high-strung in the situation. So we'd love to know from you if you were there, if your family members were there, you're part of a community that is experiencing the snow right now. What's that like? 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back and we'll get into this conversation.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. The top 6 contestants tackle a classic bake that's enjoyed all over the world, the humble pie. After learning the art of making pastry from scratch, they each prepare their own family-style pie filled with their favorite flavors. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Kickstart your journey to success in 2025 with the Durban University of Technology. DUT offers programs in the faculties of Accounting and Informatics, Applied Sciences, Arts and Design, Engineering and the Built Environment, Health Sciences and Management Sciences, open for applications for 2025. Applications close on 30th September 2024, but dates may vary. Visit dut.ac.za for a full list of available programs and entry requirements. Apply now through the Central Applications Office by visiting cao.ac.za.
Channel Heritage Day your way on Afternoon Express on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. As Chef Ruben Riffel braais lekker curried lamb skewers, we rock our traditional regalia, and Jules Harding of Good Luck celebrates her daughter Skylar's first Heritage Day, and it's orange malva pudding for dessert. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
So we're talking around landing your first job after uni and how to prepare for life after graduation. And for those of you who have recently graduated, or perhaps you're even preparing to graduate, what has been the most challenging part for you by way of transitioning from uni, aka university, to the job market? We've got Dalvin Munsami, who's the Chief Digital and Internationalism Officer at Rosebank College, to talk to us around this, because thousands of students across South Africa are entering the final phase of their graduate studies, and they must start considering what is very daunting, Dalvin, job hunting. Good afternoon to you. How are you?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm well, and yourself?
I'm great, thank you. And as much as it's exciting to be, in the final stretch, preparing yourself to graduate, if this is your final year, final semester, but we also know just how daunting the prospect of going out into the workplace can be for most, South Africans, for most people actually worldwide, phasing out of being a student to now being a fully fledged adult.
Absolutely, Bridget. And I think, the transition from uni to the workforce, can be overwhelming because it often marks the first time graduates are navigating an unstructured environment. And by this, I mean, in a university, students follow a clear path of, lectures, assignments, exams. But after graduation, the job market can feel unpredictable and it's highly competitive. Mm-hmm. So medical graduates feel the pressure because employers today want more than just a degree. They're looking for candidates with practical experience, soft skills, and the ability to contribute from day one. Mm. And I think also the rapid advancement of technology has also transformed these industries as well, leaving some graduates feeling unprepared for the roles that require some sort of digital fluency or new age skills. Mm. And I think combined with the high unemployment rates, particularly in South Africa, it adds to the uncertainty and the challenge of finding a suitable job.
Mm. And I think everything that you've sort of alluded to, Dalvin, definitely makes this transition of particularly daunting for graduates. So how do they go about better preparing themselves for the job market, or even just preparing themselves for the fact that this phase is coming to an end and you're now potentially getting into a more serious, adult responsibilities, everyday phase of your life?
Oh, absolutely as well. I think early preparation is incredibly important. Hi, Bridget, can you hear me?
Yes, I absolutely can. And we just want to try and shift your line quickly, Dalvin, and perhaps call you on WhatsApp. If you can hold 10 for us for a second. I think we're having a bit of issues with our phone lines. Everyone's sounding hollow. Everyone's sounding as though they're still stuck on the N3 calling us with those bad connections. And, Dalvin is right here, just down the road, less than 10 kilometers away, safe and warm-ish. So we're having a conversation around that. But our WhatsApp lines are open, by the way. 061-410-4107 is where you can send us a WhatsApp message, because we still want to know from you. You can share your own personal experience or the experiences of those in your life. If you did find yourself or someone that found themselves stuck in the snow over this past weekend, how was it? Good, bad, and otherwise. And if you're listening to us and taking us along on your journey as you travel and drive through to KZN, or perhaps you're driving from KZN and driving inland today because you delayed your trip on the weekend and you heeded the advice of SA Weather and delayed your trip. How is the route now and how is your journey now? And are you enjoying all of that snow-capped scenery? So we'd love to hear from you. 061-410-4107. Okay, we've got Dalvin back on the line. Talking about the importance of preparation. Ending that one... Yes.
Yes.
Ending that one phase... I can. Yes. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the preparation of ending that one phase, and getting ready to get into the next phase, but also preparing yourself for the job market.
Bridget, I think, early preparation is incredibly important. And students should actually start thinking about their careers as soon as they enter university. It's not just about getting good grades anymore. It's about building a well-rounded profile. So, this means getting involved in sort of internships, part-time work, or even volunteer opportunities. And these provide students with hands-on experience and help them develop key workplace skills. Mm. I think networking is probably also crucial as well. Connecting with your lecturers, your professors, attending career fairs, or joining student organizations can open up doors as well. Mm. It is about creating a balance between your academic performance and gaining real-world experience. So by the time the students graduate, they're ready to enter the job market with some sense of confidence.
Mm. And if we're talking, Delvin, around students having to conscientize themselves from the onset of their tertiary careers, does this then speak to maybe a gap that we have in communicating this at that senior high school level, at grade 11, grade 12, to already start saying to them, listen, when you get into tertiary, already start thinking about these strategies, 1, 2, 3, as you've outlined them? Because I don't think that that's something that's communicated or that students are taught to be aware of at grade 11, grade 12.
I absolutely agree with you. And, it is trying to bridge that gap between the schooling environment and the tertiary environment. And, as tertiary institutions, we try to bridge that when students come in, but, it needs to happen at that grassroots level. So from the grade 11 to grade 12, you're transitioning into an environment that's a little more structured. You need to, at that point, start preparing for the world of work as well. And these are the steps that you should be adopting when you start transitioning. None of which is happening currently, that we see in the schooling environment.
Let's talk a little bit about, the role of internships and, of course, part-time work, because we talk about how essential experience is. But what does that speak to by way of the practical skills that employers value outside even what you've studied, but what you've learned along the way?
I think, employers are looking for transferable skills. So it's not always about whether your part-time job aligns with your degree, but it's about the soft skills, right, that you gain in the process. So, for example, it would be around teamwork, communication, problem solving, and time management. And I think these are highly valued in the world of work. Whether you've worked in a retail or volunteered or interned in an office, these experiences show that you can handle responsibility, you can collaborate effectively, and adapt to different environments. And I think these are probably the skills that differentiates you apart from the other candidates in the market.
Professional networking, we talk a lot about it. Once you've sort of matured in the workspace, we talk about building a professional network. I find a lot of folks still grapple with what that means exactly. So how do we get students to even grasp that concept and grasp how that concept can be a valuable connector?
I think, just looking at the connections, I think, building connection doesn't always require formal events. And I think we must steer away from that when it comes to the graduates. And I mean, while you're in your studies, you don't necessarily start building those professional face-to-face networks. But I think today there's so many ways that you can start building networks, as in, online platforms. So if you look at LinkedIn, for instance, which allows students to reach out to professionals in their field, follow industry leaders, and even join virtual groups related to their interests. I think additionally, getting involved in campus organizations, student societies, or even starting informal study groups, these can lead to valuable relationships. I think networking is about, making genuine connections, and sometimes those connections come from people you see every day, your peers, your professors, your lecturers, or even the part-time job colleagues.
And if we're looking at the sort of the actual job search, what advice would you give students, around maybe researching potential employers and industries, and what should they be looking out for in an ideal environment or company that would be suited for them?
I think firstly, students should look beyond the actual job description. I think they should dig into the company's values, the culture, the opportunities for growth. A good company, would align with your own values and offers a sort of a supportive environment where you can learn and develop. It's always worth looking at how companies treat their employees. Do they offer mentorship programs? Do they offer professional development? Do you have a work-life balance, if you're employed in this company? you should be reading employee reviews, learning about the industry's future prospects, and ensuring that the role fits with your long-term career goals. These are probably all the key factors, in finding the right company as a graduate.
Yeah. Are there common mistakes, Dalvin? Are there common mistakes that maybe, you've seen some of your students making when it comes to the job search process?
Yeah, we have seen this quite a lot. I think, the number one, I think, mistake that is happening right now is you create your CV and you send that CV out to every employee you can think about. And your cover letter is standard as well. And I think that's where many people fail. Employees notice this when applications are not personalized. And I think it's important for students to tailor each application to the specific role within that company. And I think the other one is they underestimate the value of preparation. Whether for interviews or even the job search itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think graduates should be researching the company thoroughly, practicing, answering interview questions and follow up after interviews. Be proactive, organize, and continuously improving your skills will probably make the difference.
Absolutely. Just as we wrap it up, a little bit maybe of, advice for those who are feeling maybe despondent at the moment, demotivated, because we know the state of unemployment in the country, and that obviously speaks to a lack of opportunity. What advice would you give them to keep them going?
I think firstly, it's probably understandable to feel discouraged at this point, especially in the tough job market and like you said, the unemployment rates. But the key to this is being resilient. And I think graduates should focus on continuous learning and remain open to different opportunities, even if it's outside of the immediate field of study. We talk a lot about the internships and the part-time roles or freelance work. These build the valuable skills, and when you get into and when you're applying, there's always this component of experience, and doing these internships, part-time roles, and freelance work gains that experience. And I think network and stay connected with industries, trends, starts creating opportunities for our graduates. I think one alternative pathway, and this is more specific to the unemployment rate, is entrepreneurship. If the traditional market is feeling limited, I think consider creating your own opportunities by starting a small business, freelancing, or exploring side projects as such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dalvin, we have to leave it there. That was Dalvin Munsami, Chief Digital and Internationalism Officer at the Rosebank College. It's just gone 2:30. Madupi Makhalamele standing by with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, Asawa, the Nelson Mandela Foundation has announced that former International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor is their new chairperson. The KZN Kokta Department has warned communities of the possible risks of flooding as snow melts. And former British Defence Minister Ben Wallace is answering questions at a public inquiry in London over his role in trying to shield British Special Forces from prosecution for war crimes allegedly carried out in Afghanistan. Those are your headlines. A full news update, 3 o'clock.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Our WhatsApp lines are still open, so we're still quite eager to hear your experiences with the snow on 061-410-4107. You can send those messages right now. But in the meantime, though, let's go into Kids Corner. It happens round about this time now. Every single day is our kids programming. So let's check in. Kids Corner coming right up.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Good day. My name and surname is Pioke Shempembe. I am 10 years old. I am excited that this holiday we are going to Durban for our vacation. We are planning to go to Ushaka Marine World. We are also going to swim at the beach. I am excited also to go and play games at the arcade and ride a boat ride for 30 minutes. I think our holiday vacation is what I have always dreamed of, to sleep at a beautiful hotel and eat all the delicious food and desserts. I can't wait. Planning holidays for me is important, sometimes not all the time. It depends really on what I feel like doing that day.
My name is Labantu Hlongwane. Phew, finally, schools are closed. I really prefer being on holiday than being at school. Don't get me wrong, I really love school. But sometimes it's just so tiring. I think the best way for kids to spend their September holidays is to go out. Go out as much as you can, because the September holidays are the shortest holidays you will ever have. Some school make it 2 weeks, some school make it 1 week. And I'm saying that whatever weeks you have fun. Do as much things as you possibly want. If you want to learn pottery, sign up for a pottery class. If you want to paint, do that. If you want to go out with your friends, do it. That is my motto for holidays. Honestly, I like staying home, but if it's a holiday, it means, wake up, do something fun. So, yeah.
Yes, I do plan well ahead. And how I'm going to spend my holidays is that I'm going to spend my holidays with my friends, family, and doing a lot of fun activities. What I've really planned for these holidays, I haven't really planned anything since school's just closed, so I'm just looking for what I can do during these holidays. What I'm looking forward to do this holidays, I would like to explore my province, explore the area that I'm in, also spend time with my loved ones before I go back to school. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Hello everyone, my name is Rain Moya. A fun idea that I'd like to do during the holidays is to go hiking with my family. And if I were to plan a perfect day during the holiday, it would look like this. I wake up in the morning with breakfast in bed. I go take a nice warm bath and change. After that, my mom says we're going on a shopping spree. We get McDonald's for lunch, and then after that we go for a hike and we come back and we change. Then after that I get my favorite dinner, which is tortilla and chips, and then after that we go and get ice cream, which is my favorite dessert. Then I go and sleep. Yes, I think it is important to plan out your whole holiday so that you know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.
My name is Kapiamba. My surname is Dainabo, and I am 11 years old. I think school holidays is to take a break from school. I've been spending time with my family and doing my holiday work. Yes, I do have plans for the holidays. I am going to go visit family and friends and get a few books to read. I think the best way to spend the holidays is to hang out with family and friends. Thank you for listening.
My name is Dembele Madden. Some of the things I wake up to is I wash my face, brush my teeth, then change out of my PJs, then read a little, then I'll bath at night. I prefer to rehearse the things I did in the previous term so that I don't forget my schoolwork. How I think kids can spend their September and also have fun is I think you should read a book, revise for a week, then you won't have to stress about anything when school's open.
My name is Ashley Kabamba. Yes, I believe I plan well ahead. I'd like to spend my holidays by spending time with my friends and families near me. Then later into the holidays, I would visit my grandparents in Northwest. For these holidays, I had planned to visit new places around. During these holidays, I am really looking forward to spending time with my friends outside of school and visiting some of my family members that I have not seen in a long time.
happy Monday. Today, let's talk about some enjoyable activities to consider during school holidays. Breaks from school are an ideal opportunity to unwind and have some fun after a busy term. There are plenty of thrilling adventures you can embark on to make the most of your time off. For instance, you might want to try outdoor activities like biking, visiting the park, or playing sports with friends. These activities not only keep you active but also allow you to enjoy the fresh air and connect with nature. Another fantastic way to spend your school holidays is by discovering new hobbies. Each one of us as children has the potential to learn how to draw, paint, or even whip up some new recipes in the kitchen. These creative pursuits can be done at home, and you're sure to have a blast while picking up new skills. If you love reading, the holidays are a great time to dive into those books you've been eager to explore. To ensure your holiday is packed with fun, consider planning trips with your family. Whether it's a day at the beach, a trip to the zoo, or a camping adventure, these outings create unforgettable memories. You can assist your parents by suggesting places to go and packing your favorite snacks and essentials for the journey. The secret to an amazing school break is to plan ahead. You can create a list of activities you want to enjoy during the holidays and share it with your parents. By organizing exciting adventures and fun activities, you can ensure your holiday is filled with joy, learning, and relaxation.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
When self-made billionaire Wilton Knight rescues police detective Lieutenant Michael Long after a near-fatal shot to the face, he gives him a new identity and a new name, Michael Knight. Paired with the unique Knight Industries 2000 aka kit, they are brought in during situations where direct action might provide the only feasible solution. Kusazo Shuba and Michael Knight and Kit are ready to rise to the occasion. Channel your best retro with Knight Rider, weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. The top 6 contestants tackle a classic bake that's enjoyed all over the world, the humble pie. After learning the art of making pastry from scratch, they each prepare their own family-style pie filled with their favorite flavors. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
How can we make healthcare work for everyone? Join the discussion at the 2024 GEMS Symposium on the 26th and 27th of September 2024 under the theme Innovate, Integrate, Accelerate, a Universal Health Coverage Commitment. This event will bring together experts to shape the future of healthcare and tackle critical challenges such as healthcare access and prevention. Be a part of this important dialogue by visiting www.gems.gov.za to register and, of course, for more information.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
As we get into our next conversation and we're looking at how do you know someone is training for a marathon? But I get the sense that we're not talking about a marathon. Running a marathon and building a business share one crucial truth. Both require stamina, preparation, and a tailored approach. And just as success in a marathon relies on a solid training plan, mental resilience, and consistency, the same applies in business. And we've got founder and managing director of Reputation Matters, Regine LaRue, joining us. How are you doing this afternoon?
Wonderful. Thanks, Bridget, and yourself.
I'm great. Thank you. And an interesting metaphor that you use here. Tell us around, I guess, the similarities and the juxtapositioning of marathon and a business.
Absolutely. As I jokingly said, how do you know someone's training for a marathon? They'll tell you. And with many hours on the road, you get to thinking about different things and also running your own business. I've been running Reputation Matters, measuring and managing companies' brands and reputations for the last 19 years. Mm-hmm. And I've just realized, you know what, it's a journey, and it is the work that has to go into a marathon. It's not a sprint race. As much as the sprinting is fun and it's colorful and it's full of energy, and I was thinking from a business perspective, your sprints are your adverts and your branding, and it's the slogans and it's the videos that go onto TikTok. Those are necessary, very necessary. We have to do the high energy things, but we need to do the slog as well. We have to put in the work to do the strength. We have to do the hill exercises. We have to do all the stuff that's not fun, but that actually helps us through building size.
Regine, we're just going to try and reconnect you to a different line. You're just dipping out there for a second. Don't know what happened to our connection, so we'll try and find you on a different line. But as we get reconnected, our WhatsApp is still open on 061-410-4107. We'd love to hear from you this afternoon. And we're still quite curious around your trips, if you and your family were headed out to KZN or were heading out from KZN and found yourself in the midst of that snowfall. We very much are curious about your experiences around that, good, bad, or otherwise. We'd love to know. I just saw on social media that two of those gentlemen that were making rounds from TikTok, the ones who were enjoying a cold brewski with a snowman, have now been invited by that brand to come and wine and dine and drink a beer with some celebrated people. All right, I'm told we've got Regine Leroux back on the line, founder and managing director of Reputation Matters. I mean, I get the sense that a lot of people, and I stand to be corrected, but I get the sense that when a lot of people get into business, particularly their own thing, when they're building their own business, most of us get caught up in the sprints, as you say, the razzmatazz of it all, the branding, the slogans, the campaigns, all that glitz and glam fun stuff. And then it almost hits like a ton of bricks that the marathon aspect of it comes to you once you're in the trenches, and then you go, oh, darn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, exactly. And I think whenever you do start a business, you've got your website, you've got your social media, you've got all of that stuff, but you burn that energy very quickly. I mean, there's a lot of energy that goes into launching something. So it can be a company, it can be a campaign, but it is that making sure that is built around your core values. And I think that's one of the key and the crux of anything and any conversation that I have in the branding or the reputation space, building a business, whether it's a 1-day-old or 100-year-old business, what it boils down to are your core values. That is what's going to drive, that's your fuel. So when you're training for a marathon, when you're running that marathon, you need fuel to keep you going. As much as I wish I could get fit on just eating a lettuce leaf, and I wish I wasn't totally as addicted to chocolate as I am. But that isn't going to fuel and help build that stamina. You have to also use your values to help with your behavior, because ultimately your brand is your behavior. Your behavior is driven by your core values. And the consistency of that behavior according to those values is what builds your reputation, what builds your stamina. So it doesn't help to just have beautifully written values on posters, on your walls and on the website. It has to be ingrained in the DNA of every single individual in the organization. So, for example, at Reputation Matters, we have a standing agenda point on our weekly meetings of core values. What resonated or didn't resonate with our core values during the week? Because it has to be top of mind, because that is that guides us in terms of who we want to do business with.
Yeah.
We want to do business with people who resonate with our values. Otherwise, it's just an absolute nightmare to try and fuel yourself with not having the right sustenance to do your business.
Is it easy to align those daily actions and decisions with your core values?
It should be. So, for example, if you think of your core values and your behavior, is this behavior or this action going to help me to achieve my vision of my business? So, for example, our business values are to build greater businesses, and the greater stands for growth, respect, ethical, authenticity, trust, being excellent in all ways, as well as relationships. And is whatever action we're doing contributing to being greater, to helping businesses be greater. So I was joking about a piece of chocolate. Is this whole slab of chocolate going to help or hamper my marathon training? So you don't have to do it, but it's definitely going to have a long-term effect. So it should be second nature. Your value shouldn't be something difficult to think, not to think up or to dream up. It has to come naturally. And if you have the right values, you're also going to start attracting the right people to be on your team, the right clients and customers that you do want to do work with, and partners and alliances.
Interestingly enough, as you unpack greater, and I'm thinking, I just had a flashback on all the years of my being a radio broadcaster. And I think it's only been one organization that I've worked with that had a similar formulation. And it was reinforced in communication, where the values were outlined, reinforced in communication, reinforced by action on a day-to-day. And as you say, with you and your organization, you have the standing agenda, which serves as a check-in and a reminder. And I go, that leads me to thinking, how many organizations are conscious about upholding and living and reinstilling their values on a very regular basis?
Exactly. And it definitely helps with decision making as well. So, for example, I actually had this conversation with the group over the weekend where we received a brief a couple of years back, actually, where it was just such an horrendous brief. And as I was sitting around that, as I was getting the brief, I went through our values in my head. And even with the first value that came to mind is respect. I'm like, Jeepers, dude, you don't have respect for your employees. You're not having respect for anybody around this boardroom table. You don't have respect for me. Never mind speaking about your customers. So it was the easiest decline of taking on new business. As much as obviously when we want to help as far as possible, but you have to resonate with those values. If you're going to work with somebody whose values compromise your own values, you're compromising yourself in the long run as well. And it's going to be a nightmare to work with that client when there is that misalignment of values.
Absolutely. Let's talk a bit also about maybe some of the process or strategy that one puts in place then to handle the unexpected challenges of business or building a business, right? And if we're tying it back to your marathon analogy, because if you're running the Comrades Marathon, as much as you've prepared on your route between, your suburb, Bryanston or Mhlanga, wherever you live, and you just know your route. You aren't quite prepared for that stretch between Maritzburg and Durban and what sort of lays ahead for you there. So how do you prepare in business for the unexpected?
Exactly, absolutely. And route as well as weather. You might just be a little bit of a fair weather athlete and not quite expect what your body and clothing goes through when it gets wet in the rain. So part of that is part of the field where your values come into play, your team. Your team are absolutely crucial because they are your ears and your feet and your eyes on the ground and can tell you what's working, what isn't working. And just as importantly are the governance structures or the policies and the procedures. Like I said, that's the slog side of things. That's the boring side. When we speak instead of a sprint, which is the fun and high energy stuff, your policies and procedures, as boring and as laborious as they might sound, is so crucial, and to keep them updated. What are those step-by steps to do stuff? Because ultimately as well, when you're building your stamina, when you're building your reputation, it's about consistency. So again, running around the block once isn't going to get you fit. It's making sure that you consistently provide the same quality, the same value in the same way. And that's where your team, as I said, plays an incredibly important role to review your policies and procedures. Because I think often you start setting them up, life happens, and then a couple of months, years down the line, you forget that there's so much that's happened that needs to be looked at. And that's, again, where our excellence always comes into play. After every single project, we review and see what worked, what didn't well, what can we do differently or even better next time. And what's so interesting, each time we think, okay, this is really amazing. This can't possibly be done any better. And then by unpacking it as a team, looking at it critically, there's always room for improvement, and it has to be continuous improvement. So measuring it is so important. And that's part of what we also highly recommend. When you do a marathon, you have to measure yourself. You're going to have a watch that's going to help you with your pacing, or you're going to have Strava or some other app to make sure that you're improving every single time. And the same in business. We have to make sure that we are doing even better than last year. And that's, again, where we pride ourselves in quantifying value, helping companies to being able to quantify like really obscure things, like a reputation can be seen as quite obscure, like a difficult thing to quantify. But that is what we help with, is in terms of helping to be able to put a number of what people think, what do stakeholders think, and how do they perceive an organization, because that also helps to constantly improve, to get that external feedback. How can we do things better? Because that's also the only way that we can improve and do much better.
I mean, very important to track a business reputation. And as we wrap it up, I guess my final question is exactly how do businesses do that? How do they track and measure their business reputation?
There's a number of different tools out there and ways that companies do it. But I think part of what we do as well at Reputation Matters is we pride ourselves. We've developed a research tool that quantifies value. We are able to put a percentage to that perception that your stakeholders have of your organization. And we've done this with small organizations, massive SOEs, with large organizations, thousands of stakeholders. So it is making sure that is part of your strategy, is to get that feedback. I think the most important thing is, whichever tool you decide to use, is that you have some component of a measurement that you build into your strategy for the year, to make sure that you can actually measure year on year that you are improving, that you are picking up on red flags and gaps, and then to put that in place.
Regine Leroux, we appreciate the time with you, and she is the founder and managing director of Reputation Matters, and I hope you got some tips for your growing business. Let's check in with WhatsApp quickly before we wrap it up.
Hi, Bridget. As someone who's been stuck on the N3 before, I definitely heeded the warnings, and I did stay put for a day or two, and I'm glad I did. I'm only driving down to KZN today. The roads are clear. A few motorists stopping and playing with the snow. But yeah, I'm honestly glad I took the weather service warning serious. I really am glad that I was not stuck over the weekend. Thank you.
Hi again. Hey, itenzekile kumina ke la. I had to drive back to Pretoria on Saturday. So because I could see through the videos on social media ukuthi akudluleki kuMontrose. eMontrose akudluleki kusastakekile nje kusawuhlala. So I decided to go back to Johannesburg, to Pretoria. Then namhlanje kuseni ke I had to continue. Yeah. So indlela clear, N3 is fine. There's nothing on N3 beside Van Rijn bypass. That's where you
in 800 meters, keep right to stay on N3.
Snow. People are missing motors, they are playing with snow. So yeah, but now I'm about to get to Pietermaritzburg. I'm just
keep right to stay on N3.
A few kilometers away from Pietermaritzburg. The road is okay today. People, they can travel, but if you're using a public transport, don't take a taxi from Johannesburg after 3 o'clock. After 3 o'clock, don't take a taxi that comes down to Durban or Pietermaritzburg from Johannesburg.
Africa from Within follows the journey of our anchor presenters who travel to various locations in order to delve into the inner workings and untold stories of the unsung heroes. At its core, Africa from Within is all about grassroots storytelling and the showcasing of the conservation contributions of ordinary people to Africa. It aims to engage and entertain viewers, educate and promote conservation, and inspire viewers to value our natural heritage. Don't miss Africa from Within on SABC2 every Friday at 7 p.m.
Africa Chibembe. As trees and flowers blossom, the nation gets brighter and excited for sporting action. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport celebrates the nation's diverse culture and heritage. Happy Heritage Month. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Our time together has run out, and I know that Madupi is standing by with the top of the hour news. I thank you so much for choosing to be in conversation with us and participating in all the topics of the day. I'm not too sure if Ashraf is back from Montreal. Okay, so Oliver is hanging out with you this afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge. The top stories at 3 o'clock. Naledi Pandor is to lead the Nelson Mandela Foundation, and KZN communities warned of possible flooding. A very good afternoon. The Nelson Mandela Foundation has announced that former International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor is the new chairperson. Dr. Pandor becomes the third person to hold the position since the late former President Nelson Mandela established the organization in 1999. Ditaba Tsotetsi reports.
The appointment of Dr. Naledi Pandor follows the retirement of board chairperson Professor Njabulo Ndebele, who has served on the board for a quarter of a century and served as chair for over a decade. The Board of Trustees of the Nelson Mandela Foundation says that Dr. Pandor offers the foundation just what it needs for the next phase of its development. Dr. Pandor worked closely with Madiba during South Africa's first democratic administration in the 1990s and was one of South Africa's longest-serving members of parliament. She has served in numerous leadership roles, the most recent being that of International Relations Minister. Ditaba Tsotetsi, SABC News.
The KZN Kokta Department has warned communities of the possible risks of flooding as the snow melts. This follows this weekend's severe snowfalls in KZN and the Free State that caused major traffic disruptions. This led to the closure of the N3 due to the formation of black ice and fog. This highway has now been reopened in both directions. At the weekend, hundreds of road users were stranded for almost 2 days between the Tugela Plaza and Harry Smith. The provincial Kokta MEC says alerts have been issued to communities downstream of the Tugela River catchment area to the potential of flooding. Disaster management teams will continue to monitor areas along the Tugela River from Ladysmith to Umsing. Former Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene says the late Pravin Gordhan never shied away from fighting corruption. Nene has paid tribute to the late SARS Commissioner and former Finance Minister at a memorial service held by the Revenue Service in Tshwane.
Too many people have been buried in one grave in Pravin. Sad as it is that Pravin has departed, I think we find joy and comfort in that we've had the privilege to share this life with him. This is the time for us to try and actually emulate